That's Al Park in the Twilight Hour from his new album titled, now wait for it, One for the Dog, One for the Cat, and One for the People with a Monkey on Their Back. That's Monkey for short, and here is Al himself, direct from Littleton, to tell us how he collaborated with Adam Hadaway and Elmore Jones to make this record. But first, what's that title all about?
Well, I think that, Monkey's fine as a making it easy and quick, but the whole hog is because it came to me, the title, one time when I was doing dinner, because the songs are quite different from each other, and I sort of thought I wanted to convey that. And when I told Delaney, the Tyrees, no, you've got to be the Twilight Hours, the song, focus it on this, don't confuse the issue. And I went, nope, this is the title.
Yeah, because everything has to be Googleable and easily, all that stuff.
I've gone against that stuff, Marty. I'm saying this is my own little fun game, and I'm still having fun doing it. Yeah, and good. I just thought, and also the monkey followed the pony. Really, because the pony was the last album, and I thought, well.
That makes sense. I wonder what the next one will be.
I wonder. Actually, there is the next one, and I'm sort of thinking the next one might be a little bit different, might be an animal name. I sort of have an idea for the next one. Okay, all right. Well, we'll wait and see what happens there. So this one here, again, you're working with Adam Hadaway and Elmore Jones. How do you guys? Because there are a couple of young whippersnappers that we've had up here at our studio, as a matter of fact. What is it about them that makes it so workable with you? Well, both of those boys I had duos with before they became famous, and I've known Elmore since he was 4, because I played. His dad played in my band for a long time. Right. Phil Jones, who's a bit of a legend down here. And I've played a lot of part in their life. I guess we've hung out a lot, and they really get me. They get my songs, and when it's come to recording, it's been easy to reference what we've been thinking in regard to the songs. So, and also they're vital. They've got a vitality about them that's it's been good, and it's just been a great working relationship, to be quite honest. They are skillful players, and whereas I'm not really, so they've been able to bring to fruition, what I do. Right. Cool. So the album itself, the songs do, like you mentioned, they're kind of all over the place stylistically. I heard, something David Lynchian, something Dylan-esque. The opening track is like Blues Brothers kind of thing. What's going on there?
Now Holly was my girl. She could be sweet, now she could be cruel. I loved her madly, it ended badly. Now I'm a lonesome fool. All the love I had, all the love I had, all the love I have for you. Well, to be honest, Marty, I'm not as a songwriter. I'm one of those guys who take what I get, I don't sit down and try to write songs. So every song, all of my albums or songs have been pretty much what I get at the time. And then, as much as I'd like to be, some sort of hip, cool dude that could, turn out sort of like my imitation Bob Dylan songs or whoever I love, it's never worked for me. I've written songs that my mum and dad would play around the piano, right. But they've come to me, and I always think that some songwriters talk about that, that they just come out of the air and you're the conduit for them. I've heard that one. Yeah. Very much in my case, like the key song on this album for me, the Twilight Hour, I can't even really remember writing it so much as that. It came to me, we went and recorded it, and I was really happy with the result. And so, but like as a song, it doesn't feel like it has much to do with me. I've been sitting quietly in the shade, smoking weed and drinking lemonade. These old days
it's funny how that happens. But if you said to me, oh, do you sit down like Hathaway or, write songs, because you're a songwriter, I don't. But I've got quite a body of work now. And,
the Twilight Hour is the one that, to me, sounded kind of David Lynchian.
Yeah, well,
could have been Twin Peaks.
That's a song that I actually think has probably got legs, and I wouldn't say often. It's kind of weird talking about your own songs because I don't often do this, but I've been proud of some of the songs I've written, but that hasn't meant that everyone's loved them.
Right.
But but the vibe of that song seems to be something more than just I don't know. There's something, especially if you look at the video as well, that I got Jodie Lloyd to do. Right. I think it's quite powerful, and like I've had, I've played it to a couple of my women friends earlier on. And a couple of guys have messaged me to say that it, brought tears to their eyes. I think it actually connects on some quite deep level that it wasn't my necessary intention to do that, but it's quite interesting to see how it moves people.
Okay. And I see you covered an old Vandals tune.
What
happened there?
Hathaway. Yeah, Hathaway on the last Pony album wanted to do a song called California, which I originally recorded with a little band I had after the Vapor and the Trails, my first band, with Bill Hammond, the artist. We had a little band called Old Dennis, and we did this thing called California, which was quite Neil Youngish, sort of slow and quite sloppy.
That's Neil.
Yeah.
I love him.
Bill was a great drummer. He was really good. So that's another story anyway. So Hathaway wanted to do California, and I was really happy with the way it came out. But when we went down to Sublime this time, he said, let's do that Get Vandalized. And I'm going, oh, no, I don't, Adam, it's almost 50 years old, and I'm not sure that and I couldn't remember the words I'd written. And Tony Peake, the singer, he didn't even learn the words, and he sort of mumbles them on a video. So in the end, I relented and knocked off these words that kind of were more sort of 21st century, but pretty much in time. And so we knocked out this old punk song, but I'm really happy with it.
Throw out your education, take me back to darker times. Let's dump the civilization, go back and live in a cave. I can't see no solution, can't find my way back out. Get vandalized, get vandalized, get vandalized. Vandalized, get vandalized, get vandalized.
And I've got a video coming up at the end of this month for Get Vandalized as well.
Okay.
So that's where you get the monkey and the dogs and the cats, because Twilight Hour and Vandalized are opposite ends of the spectrum. Really.
Definitely, yeah. Well, it should be easy to make a video. It's only less than 2 minutes long, so.
It's a very. When I asked for a video for that from Jody, we said I just want it to go bam, 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 and it's kind of quite. It's quite commercial, the video, but I just trust the people I work with, and he's come up. But funny enough, I was going to say, Marty, unbeknown to like with the movie coming out, the Head South movie with John Ogilvy's, Jody kind of knew of my Mullet Street days, and he's plastered, like, apart from Get Vandalized, bam, Get Vandalized, he's got Mullet Street sort of coming up in it every now and again too, which seems kind of timely with the we've been getting an action down here for Mullet Street again for all these years.
I'm glad you mentioned Head South. I saw the film up here at the film festival. And so have you seen it?
I haven't, but Johnny was really he's been really good to me. He invited me onto the set to get my approval for his recreation of the Mullet Street stage. And then we did an interview the other day together, and he's mentioned me in Q&As, people told me, in Wellington. And so, he's actually been, it's it's funny how things keep coming back in your life, and Wallet Street keeps coming back in my life. My Louie and the Hot Sits band keeps coming back in my life. I can't go anywhere and people come, that kind of thing.
So what do you remember most vividly about that time, the 79, 80 and the Christchurch music scene? Because that's where Head South pretty much just take place.
And I actually, because I was, it was, Wallet Street was kind of went from like 76 through 77. And so it was the very early stages of punk. Middle class kids, it wasn't that kind of like, I mean, but I was just saying to McGrath that, if you look at the photos, I was thinking of the Enemy last night when the first time the Enemy came to Christchurch, and they played out at the uni. They got like bottles thrown at them and everything, and Chris Knotts was on stage and just grinning, but he did a big spiel in that song about myself and Tony Peake, even though we'd just met, but there was this bond straight away. And because he was playing at Wallet Street on the Sunday night. And when you saw the Enemy, like Mick, the bass player, I mean, he was so not punk. He was a bit like me, a little older than other guys. And, no one was dressing like it. It was an interesting time. But at the post-punk stage, at that stage, I always had this funny little band called Old Dennis with Bill Hammond, and that was my post-punk.
Well, that's what I love about the universality of that story, because I was doing exactly the same thing in upstate New York and Rochester in 1979. I was slightly older. We all formed a band because everybody did, and you could, even though you couldn't play anything. And we dressed goofy. We didn't know what we were doing, but we loved it. We just got on with it and played a couple of gigs and forgot about it after that.
Well, I've actually, obviously I've seen a lot of you over the years, Marty, and I've kind of thought that, we probably come from a similar stage of music. You know a lot about music. I know a lot about music. It's been our lifeblood, I guess, and so I can relate to what you're saying.
So do you remember where and when was the first time you ever stepped into a studio and recorded anything?
Well, the first studio, funny enough, I've been a lot of times in my life, I look back and think, well, Arnold Van Bussel had the Night Shift studio, but when I first wanted to record, I didn't know anyone in enough to, but anyway, someone mentioned Arnold Van Bussel, and he lived down over in Waltham there, and he had a studio in his bedroom of his parents' house.
Right.
He was still living at home, so I think I was, apart from his own band, I think I was the first band to go there and record. And I have to say that I never had much success with recording. I needed to be guided, and Arnold wasn't the right person to guide me. He came from sort of heavy rock metal background, and so the early recordings that we made are okay, but not brilliant. And in fact, I always, I probably spent most of my life thinking I was a live musician. I had really good live performer. I was a good front man. I wasn't the greatest musician, but I always got good musicians around me. I always was able to, I was good at getting gigs and doing and self-promotion. And so I was always able to pay people. And so I didn't have very many bands, but the bands I had were really good. And I just fronted them.
Right. Are you still doing gigs?
Hell yeah.
All right, that's the right answer.
I've got a couple of gigs this week, but 3 last week. I don't count them like that. I don't like counting them off and saying, I've got 3 gigs this week, I did 5 last week. It makes me sound like some of the other guys I used to know, but I play all the time. And the great thing about it is that I still don't have to go out and knock on doors. So I'm still getting asked to go play, which is nice. It's pretty special, I have to say, Marty. I'm not so young anymore, but I know that I'm good at doing at entertaining and playing the right songs in the right places, if that makes any sense. And I have a good bunch of musicians around me that I can use if I need to, if it's a band gig or if it's just, it's just a solo gig. But yeah, I play a lot. It's good. I love it.
And
I love that live thing.
How's the live scene in Christchurch and Littleton these days, post earthquake and all that stuff?
Well, I still think it's pretty good. And like Barry Saunders, who's a real good friend of mine, he's blown away by how many live gigs there are in Christchurch compared with Wellington.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of like work if you want to, if you like going strumming a guitar in the corner in a pub, which I love doing that as much as I love standing up in the church venue, for instance, and playing Thursday nights or whatever. Because I have a lot of originals that I play, and people these days don't go. And if anything, I think quite often people will clap an original more than they will your cover versions.
Yep.
But I don't play covers in the way the cover was written. I do my you get the old part stuff.
What's your favorite cover to do?
Oh, I don't know if I do, because every time I always think that like it changes all the time. I've got a pretty huge repertoire. If there's an all-purpose one at the moment that I've had, like that I don't use every gig,
right,
but like that I like doing, I think I do a pretty good version either solo or with a band of Things Have Changed, Bob Dylan.
Oh, right. Yep.
And kind of feels pertinent for the people are crazy times like that. I think that it's kind of feels good, and you can play quite a funky version. So, and it can be up front or it can be back.
The good old Bob's still cooking along in his 80s, so he's someone to look forward to in many ways.
Yeah, well, I have been totally a Bob Dylan since like 13. If you could take, if I only had one artist in my life, then it would be Bob. It's been a huge too.
Yeah, you have a tune called "Don't Tell Me Your Story" on the new album. That's kind of Dylan-esque, isn't it?
Don't tell me your story. There's no words to be said. All of these things that you imagine, they're just all in your head. There are times when I love you, but they are few and far between. Don't tell me your story, 'cause I need to stay clean.
When it's funny, like when you reference things, so like for Twilight Hour, I actually said to the boys, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to kind of like say that we try to sound like it, but I said I quite like the idea of Time Out of Mind vibe. I like the emotion of time. That's the emotion we're going for. And with Don't Tell Me Your Story, which is kind of like an interesting song, I said kind of like the band first album.
Oh yeah.
And when you talked about Hathaway and Elmore before, the nice thing is that they have listened to those albums.
Right.
So if it's not like I'm talking to a wall, I'm talking to people who have listened, and they go, "Oh yeah, we get it." But we're not trying to sound like the band, or I'm not trying to sound like Bob Dylan. But obviously they're influential, and I'm trying to pick up on that. So the first time I heard in a station or something of Big Pink, just the vibe of it was like so exciting to a young kid.
Yeah. And it's followed by a tune called Signpost, and you got kind of a reference to Kenny Rogers' Gambler in there. What's going on there?
Some people say The Gambler is the best song they ever heard. They know it line by line, they can sing it every word. Some say it's about money, others about love. I say it's about seeing the signs, knowing when to trust.
That's a funny song, because I had the bloody Delaney Davison gets into things all the time, but I had the screeds of lyrics from the original for the song that I had Signpost, and in the end, verses would come to me, and I'd scroll them down, and in the end I had all these pages and I didn't know what to do with them really, and so and I must have mentioned it to Delaney, and he said, "I'll give them to me. I'll write. So I'll finish them for you."
Right.
As he's done before for me, and so I got back 32 verses of lyrics.
32 verses.
I took 4 of them down, and altered a few things, and then I had 4 different melodies for it, because like that's what it was, and so the boys picked the one melody that it is now. And really that song is some other reviewer picked up on the fact that it's obviously sort of romantic. And it is romantic in a sense that it's like a combination of relationships in my life.
Right.
And so the gambler bit comes in because it just tied into the thing about money and love and the fact that so many people know the lyrics to it and what that actually means to people. And it's so, and I like the fact that for me, it meant something more than just money and love. It was more like of trusting people.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Well, the album came out on the 16th, just last.
Yeah, a week ago.
What kind of reaction? Friday. What kind of reaction you've been getting? People listening? People paying attention?
Well, it appears that way. And the fact is that like I'm quite happy in my own little life, to be honest, right. Marty. Yep. I was really proud of the album I did with all my famous friends singing my songs.
Right.
Called Better Already. I thought it was really good, yep. But it was hard to market and not many people listened to it. But I thought it had some really, really good songs on it. And then I thought, oh well, maybe they're old-fashioned because I have choruses and verses and mates and maybe that's not the style anymore. But I actually think that, and it was a shame I couldn't get it out to a wider audience. But hey, it didn't matter because I was really pleased with it, and in the end, I still play some songs off that album, and so the reaction to this one has been better than anything I've ever had, right. And it's more to some of the people who have reacted. Like I got really, really fine comment from like Simon Grigg the other day. Yep. Loved the song, Al, and then a week later, I've been listening to it more. I just love it, and he posted it up on Audio Culture for me, which on my Audio Culture site, and
that's pretty cool. So, yeah, I saw that. I was checking it out this morning.
Well, it was very cool for me because it's a funny little thing. I've lived in my own little town and had an awesome life without having to think about being aspirational in a sense. I wanted to be anything more than just have a great time playing music, and I've achieved that through and then to get sort of some sort of recognition from someone like Simon was that you can figure that would make me feel pretty pleased.
Absolutely.
So so the reaction has been real good, and the video as well. I could make jokes about my Spotify listener going, like I always make a joke about like my 31 listeners have gone down to 28 and they just hit 71 or something. But
cut your income in half. It'll cut your income in half.
Well, the thing is that I've always made a joke about that because it really doesn't bother me too much. But I have to say that the older people have been listening, a few more than 31 at the moment.
All right, fantastic. Well, hopefully you can get your act up here sometime and we'd see you performing. It'd be kind of cool.
It's funny about it. I would love to, and I've got friends up there who've been saying, I want to come and do a tour and everything like that. I did one tour in my life with Vape on the Trails for a couple of months around the North Island. It was fantastic fun, but in the end, it wasn't really what I was into. But I would love to come. I would love to come and play.
All right.
We'll just have to see how this next few months pan out.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you for spending this time talking to me about it. Great record. Enjoyed it immensely. Good to always see what Adam and Elmore are doing as well, because they're always something. So yeah.
Well, thank you for talking to me, Marty, because I appreciate it. Nice to meet you after all this time. Cool.
You too. Have a good one.
Thanks a lot.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.